Hey everybody, Yonci here. I'm super excited because we have another live stream today. I have some friends who are going to be coming in, and I'm really excited to share with all of you guys what we're going to be talking about. Um, I have my comments going, and as always, you guys, I have a million things going, so if I'm moving around, just forgive me. But I have friends who are joining in on the conversation, so I'm excited for you guys to be able to see them and hear what they have to say. If you guys ever want to be on camera like my friends, you can do so if you are a patron. And you guys can find my Patreon information at the bottom of the videos when I'm done. All right, guys, so just bear with me. I'm doing a little technical stuff here in the background. I see you guys watching on the video chat, so let me know your city and state that you are watching from. And I'm going to say hello to everybody who is here. Here's my friends. Hello, hello. Hey,
How are
Jerome.
How are you? Good to see you, Yancy.
Good to see you as well. And we have Dee joining us. Hello, darling.
Hello, my dear. How's everybody?
Amazing. I'm super excited to get into these topics. We know that I know a lot of people come on CP time, so I imagine we'll have people joining us throughout the hour. Uh, and there might be some new faces because I have new patrons this week who are VIPs. So as you guys give your city and state, I will shout you out. So make sure you guys comment there. All right, I am going to get right into this. The first question that I want to talk about is and I forgot I got my fancy schmancy uh, screen, so I gotta get used to doing these here. My first question is, have you ever dated a mama's boy? So, Jerome, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that you haven't.
No.
I'm gonna say that's probably safe to say you haven't. Dee, have you ever dated a mama's boy? And if you have, what was that experience like?
I have had the fortunate, unfortunate experience of dating a mama's boy.
Ooh, child.
And though he was a great guy, I did feel very strong that there were not strong enough boundaries between him and his mama.
Right.
And it definitely posed an issue. But what I actually discovered in that situation was, of course, they had a dynamic that was at work because he had, lost his father from their
Oh,
lives when he
which is
was very
typical.
young, like
Yeah.
19. And so, of course, he stepped up as their not just their only son, but their only child, and felt the need to really protect his mom and
Yeah.
etc. Which these are all things that are respectable. However, if you are 46 and still depending on your mom to help you make certain decisions, that becomes problematic in relationships. If you um, defer to your mom whenever any particular situation arises, that also becomes problematic. When you're in a relationship with someone, your focus is supposed to be on the relationship with that person.
Right.
If you're QT with your mom, um, is more important to you than maintaining the relationship, then you're probably going to lose that relationship, or you should probably reconsider actually being in a relationship and maybe just date casually. I think the trouble is sometimes mama's boys don't necessarily realize that they're mama's boys,
Yes.
and try telling somebody he's a mama's boy. See how
Yes.
that goes.
Yeah, and I was gonna say too, and then the mom is gonna reinforce it because let's say you go back and you tell him, I think this is an unhealthy boundary. He's probably gonna go tell his mom that my girl's saying it's an unhealthy boundary, and she's gonna say, why would a good woman want to sever the relationship? Because it's always dramatic. Sever the relationship between
Right.
a healthy relationship. Yeah.
Well, I have to get in on this because D, I
Please.
like the fact that you said it was a fortunate, unfortunate. And the reason I say that is it can be amazingly fortunate because I'm gonna be honest, I'm a mama's boy, right? And yes, my mother has actually been gone 8 years. I still
Mm.
consider myself a mama's boy. But I kept boundaries. So, for example, in my first marriage, I'll never forget this. My mother came to stay at our house, And we came home from work. I bought a ticket, come from Atlanta to stay with us for 2 weeks, came home from work. All of our cabinets in the house were rearranged.
No.
And she didn't have to say anything. I got it. I immediately, and my mother's excuse was, well, this is not the way that I raised you and stuff like that. And I was like, hold up, time out. This is not your house. This is her house, right? So, and she did one other thing, and it had to do with the laundry, right? The way that we sorted the laundry. And she was telling my kids how to sort the laundry, which was counter to the way that we were teaching our kids how to sort the laundry. I knew the next day. I bought her a ticket, gave her like $1,000. I was like, Mom, you got to go.
Oh my God. See, but this is where I'll argue with you. I think that you love your mother and have a great relationship because of the boundaries. I would say you're not a mama's boy, because the mama's boy is an unhealthy relationship. The fact that you
okay, so that's your definition. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's my definition. Because to me, I guess for me the definition has a completely negative connotation. Like there's no
got it.
Like I love my mama's boy, which to me is like the reason why it's a boy is because it's a person who never grew up to become a man. There's still apron strings attached. The umbilical cord's not cut.
I would agree with that.
So I love what you had to say. I actually am doing a video on Tuesday about it's a 10-question test to see if you are a mama's boy or you're with a mama's boy. And you guys literally covered 50% of the material right then. And wow. Still watch, you guys, if you're watching on YouTube.
So if I can just tell you, this is how good it was. I'm not gonna even say that. This is how good it was with my mama's boy. He was divorced for about 4 years at the time that we got together. And very stable guy, had been in his job for a number of years. By all accounts, if you saw him, you would say, oh, he's like a 7 on a 1 to 10 type of scale. Stability in his job and loved his children. What I ultimately discovered to kind of put a bow on it is that he had unhealthy boundaries even with his ex-wife. Okay. But speaking specifically about his mom. So when we first became official, it was his daughter's birthday was coming up. She was like 14 at the time. Well, he got her an iPhone. And I was like, oh, what a great gift, this and that. And he goes, yeah, me and my mom split it. I was like, oh, okay, no real red flag, just kind of a raised eyebrow, him and his mom split the cost of this iPhone, right?
That's one of the points on the test,
But he didn't have a washer and dryer. He goes to his mom's house every other weekend.
That's question number 2.
To do his laundry.
Girl, you all in my video.
Right? Okay. So here are my issues. So you and your mom went half on an $800 phone, but you don't have a washer and dryer? Okay, wait.
No, do you have a washer and dryer. He has the washer and dryer.
Yeah, it's just a phone, right? So then I'm like, so why don't you have a washer and dryer? Like, I have to ask. And he was like, well, I go over to my mom's, and then if I need to run errands or something, she'll help me finish my laundry. Okay. So I was thinking maybe it's just his opportunity to spend time with his mom, but he doesn't do laundry every week. He does laundry every other week, which is also a problem because your funky clothes are sitting for 2 weeks. Like, I had a serious problem with that, right? So then this real mama's boy stuff right here, y'all. I took a shower over there.
Person for today.
Right. So I took a shower over there. This is like we're official now, so I'm getting comfortable.
Right.
I put my face in the towel. It smells like mildew. It smells the way towels smell when you don't dry them.
When you don't dry it properly.
Supposed to. Right. Okay. Cool.
Because mom wasn't helping him.
Cause she ain't helping you at all, son. Not even a little bit, because if she loved you, she'd tell you that you need to put some white vinegar in that laundry load to get that smell out of those, like your girl did, like Dwayna told you. So then he said, I said, because I can't put my face in this towel, babe. It's disgusting. And anybody that has ever had that experience with one of those mildewy towels, you know it's a bad experience, right? So the next time he goes to wash his laundry, he tells his mom, because she asked, why are you putting vinegar in the laundry? And of course he goes, because Dwayna said my towels smell.
Oh no.
The very first time that I met her, what do y'all think she said to me? I give you one guess what she said. She's like, oh, it's really nice to meet the person who changed the way my son does laundry forever.
No!
I couldn't believe, standing in the church parking lot. I couldn't believe it. She said, who the person who changed, not who is changing his life, not who's loving on him so well, not whom he has decided to commit in this relationship, but the person who changed the way he does laundry forever. I couldn't believe it. But I eat confidence for breakfast. So I said, so my response to her and isn't he the better for it? You should really take a shower at his house and use one of his towels now. They're amazingly fresh.
Oh wow.
She said, come on, son. She said, come on, son. And he kind of giggled about it because it was me being me, so he knew that I wasn't trying to be disrespectful towards her or anything like that. But let me just let you know, sis. I'm laying down next to him and taking showers at his house. I'm not using them disgusting ass towels, He needed to learn that. And ultimately his lack of boundaries with his mother and his ex-wife was the thing that broke us up. He really struggled. Great person, a human being, very active father, and wants to do right by his family. But the lack of boundaries is definitely an issue for somebody like me, who has a really good handle on not just setting boundaries, but creating really good relationships that are, that are built from great rapport and respect.
Yeah.
When you keep crossing a line with somebody, it's really disrespectful. And so we weren't able to continue.
Yeah. And I think it's so important. And there's a lot of jokes about it, and it can sound kind of funny, but this really is an issue that I think people need to address, because I know people who are grown with their own children. One actually has grandchildren, and the mom still doesn't have boundaries. So it's the great grandma now still doesn't have boundaries. And so I think it's important for people, on Tuesday, watch the video. There's a test where you can figure out, what determines a mama's boy. And if you are one, if you are with one, because that is going to be something that does not change unless he wants to. And also there are going to be ramifications that are huge if he does. So let's say D, you talk to him and he had an epiphany and he wanted to change. There are going to be major consequences when he pushes back with mom, because
that relationship, right?
So you have that to carry, because it could lead to resentment when it backfires, because when it backfires, now in his mind it's like, well, it's because of her, everything was fine until she interjected this. So understand, for those of you who just joined on, hey Latoya, hey Doc, we are talking about mama's boys. And I want to give a shout out to those who are watching, you guys. My phone is over here and I'm looking at the comments here, so that's why I keep looking this way. But we have Sai joining in. Hey, love. And I know she's from, I hope it's okay to say, she is from Chicago. Raymond is from Cincinnati. Hey, Raymond. That's a dear friend of mine. And then we have a Richmond, Virginia with Tessa. Oh, hey, Tessa. I recognize you, love. She is one of my patrons, so shout out to you, darling. And then we have Anthony. Anthony is amazing. He said lack of boundaries and musty towels gots to go. Anthony is amazing. Shout out to you. He's part of my group. Now, Raymond brings up this question. He said, does that mean a daddy's girl is the same? Here's the
I was going to ask that. Yes.
Yup.
Yes.
I'm trying to get Raymond to jump on. So,
Yes.
come on. Oh, hey, my coach is on here. My coach is Derek. I'm going to do a shameless plug, you guys. It is shameless because there's no shame in this. One of the things that I talk about, this is a little bit of a tangent, so just hang on, guys. One of the things that I talk about is going after your purpose. Yes, the streets is watching, he said. That's our little inside joke. I talk about going after your purpose, and a lot of times we have fear of the unknown and we don't want to step out because we're like, I don't know what to do. But all we have to do is just move forward. Even if it's talking about it, even if it's researching, just make some progress, even if it's one baby step a day. And I'll never forget, I wanted to get on YouTube. I wanted to step up my social media game and improve my presence. And lo and behold, I'm going to put big air quotation marks, coincidentally, Derek comes out of nowhere and says, hey, I'd like to bring on somebody for a case study because this is something I've been doing, but I want to do it, and really monitor the results. Do you mind if I coach you? Let me think about that. Yes, sign me up. So he has been such a blessing. He's been coaching me for weeks, and he's the reason for anything that's positive that's been happening on my social media. That's thanks to him. I've been getting a lot of people hitting me up like, girl, what have you been doing? He's my secret weapon. So shout out to him. Once we're done with this whole project, he will be promoting it and kind of showing where we went. But people always like to know, who did you help? How did you help? Why am I going to pay you to help me? It's real. So that's a big plug, Derek. I appreciate you more than you know. Yay, Raymond says he's going to jump on. Did anyone want to talk about Mama's Boys before we go on to Daddy's Girls? Jump in now. You guys know how we do our group chat. Just throw the elbow.
I just want to say, I realize now I am not a mama's boy. So I thought I was. And when I say I thought I was, so there are just certain things in terms of how I present myself towards my wife as a man that I get that influence from my mother. Like, it drives my wife crazy that she'll tell me to go in her pocketbook and get something, and I'll bring the pocketbook because my mother told me, do not go into a woman's pocketbook. Don't do it. So there's heavy influence from my mother as a man, but there are clear lines that my mother knew. I don't do it when it comes to Jerome, because Jerome is gonna push back. So
yes,
I guess I'm not a mama's boy. I'm okay.
Those influences are really strong. There is a show that's called I Love a Mama's Boy. I believe that's the title. Don't quote me, but I'm actually gonna play a clip in the video on Tuesday. It is mind-boggling. This show. The show follows a couple of units. I'm saying units because it's not couples. It's couples and the mom, the man's mom, and it follows them around. When I say to you, it's, to me, I don't know if gross is appropriate, or if that's too harsh, but some of the things were kind of gross. Like, the mom was saying how she really enjoyed caring for him and all that. She bathed him until he was in the 6th grade. Like, the things that they talked about. And when you're talking about the cabinets all moved around, the first episode that I watched, hey there, Mr. Saint Germain. No, I said your name wrong. Wait. Why am I blanking on your name? Not Jerome. Jerome?
Jeremy.
I was like, why am I have everybody by written in my head, but I'm thinking of your last name. Saint Germain, that's what it is. That's why I'm thinking Jeremy.
There it is.
Yeah, Jeremy. Thank you for joining us on camera.
Of course.
But one of the moms, when the very first scene that they showed was the girlfriend and the boyfriend hiding all the stashes of food, because in their own house, if the mom came over, she wouldn't approve. So they literally were, it was like the popo, hide the weeds, flush down the toilet. Like, that's how they were with just the crackers and whatever they had in the house. So it's just crazy. All right, so let's get into Daddy's Girl. Derek says, I appreciate you, keep grinding. Thank you so much. Derek says, shoot, I'm same here. I'm not going in a woman's purse, not even holding it. Y'all act like it's like an explosive that it's going to detonate if you touch it. I guess
They're scared of the tampons.
Is that what it is?
No,
they should just admit it.
No, I'm scared of the ghost of my mother slapping me upside the head because she told me not to. Nothing else. I'll hold my wife's bag. Like when we go, if I go with her shopping and she needs to do something and she hands me her bag, I have no issue holding her bag. But
I
going
don't know.
in it, no. Mm-mm.
I don't know how you guys live without handbags because they just have everything in it. Like, you know, you have your, well, if you carry lip chap, when it's for your lipstick, but you know, your lipstick, you've got your wallet, you've got your whatever crap you need to carry. Like, I just think about all the stuff in my purse and like, how do you guys do that where you don't have,
Pockets.
I guess
No, I keep a bag. I keep a bag, but it's not like it has to be like a backpack
like a
or it's a
satchel.
briefcase or something like that. But yeah, you know, it's essential, especially with these days and times. It's essential.
Yeah, like if you wipes or just whatever. All right, so let's get into the daddy's girl. This is where I think the difference is between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy one. At some point, you need to have your own identity. So I think if it's keeping you from having your own identity and being able to make decisions, that becomes a problem. So if all of your criteria is based on what daddy said versus I've heard what dad said, but now I'm going to have my own thoughts about it, you know, that's healthy. But if somebody is, because I was a daddy's girl for the first couple years of my marriage, and my ex would joke and say, like, did I marry you or your dad? Or, you know, because it was like being the same person. I wouldn't say, I think my dad says, you know, I wouldn't think for myself. Welcome, Raymond. Such an honor to have you on, Mr. Woods.
Hello, hello. How's everyone doing?
Fantastic.
Good.
Thank you. Latoya, did you have anything you wanted to add before I move forward? I don't know if she can.
I guess it's can you hear me today?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, last week y'all can hear me.
No, I felt so bad.
It's all good. I don't know what was going on. I think it's hard for me to speak on this topic because I've never dated a mama's boy, and my father passed away when I was 2 from cancer. So I'm not really a daddy's girl. So I don't know how to contribute to the conversation. I just can't really.
I just want to make sure we didn't jump over you. Now, Derek is responding to the thing about the purse detonating. He said, yes, it blows up masculinity.
I bet it does. I'm a real life daddy's girl, so I overstand. I'd like to think that it's healthy, but I mean, I don't know.
Now, you guys, we had this conversation in the group for a while. Real quick, shout out to Sanders from Seattle, Washington. He is one of my first patrons, and I will forever be grateful to you. That's a whole other thing I'm gonna get into in a bit. But shout out to you, sir. Thank you so much. Lithos Way said, I always have fun saying his name. Lithos Way said, not sure if it's been touched on, but do you think we sometimes look for spouses to replace our parents? And I do. I think that's what I was getting into, where it's like you get your development and then you're supposed to become your own. Like you have the offerings from them, but then you take what you want, like say, take the meat and spit out the bones. You become your own person and then you get your mate. That's the normal process. And I think a daddy's girl or a mama's boy misses that middle step. And for me, because I didn't develop until after my divorce. I skipped that middle part too. So that's why the name of my channel and all my social media is Chasing Yonci, because I'm chasing who I am. I'm trying to understand who I am, because how in the world could I present myself to you, my future person, if I don't even know who I am? So I think that's important for everybody to have that, that understanding of what, who they are and make their own decisions for themselves. And also, this gets into like, where do you draw boundaries? If you realize I have an unhealthy relationship with my mother or my father, how comfortable are you cutting off? Because just because they're your parent doesn't mean that they're healthy emotionally or good to you. It could be a toxic relationship. You could have an extreme, situation where a parent maybe has an addiction and they try to guilt trip you into giving money. Or let's say your parent has 3 kids and you're the most successful out of the 3, and they try to guilt trip you into giving your money to your siblings when they're just being bums. I'm just being honest. So sometimes it's not healthy, which is why it's so important to have your foundation, because all that guilt and all those other feelings will really start to sway you if you don't have yourself grounded. I want to get into the debate that has been across memes, across America, it's probably across the world, but it's the old, who sits in the front row? let me know if you guys have heard this meme, seen this meme somewhere on multiple platforms. Okay, this is like
I haven't.
the
Can you
meme.
show us?
Yes.
In the
It
video,
is. What did you say?
I've seen the video where
Right. There's
Yeah.
there's videos, there's memes, there's posts. So basically the concept is you have a guy, you have his mom, you have his wife. Everybody's heading to the car. Who gets the, coveted front row seat? And right, it's everywhere. So in different nationalities, different whatever ages. So my question was, why don't we ever see this with men? I've never seen a meme, any type of post where the dad, the father, is fighting for something from the son-in-law. And the conclusion that I came to with talking to other people is that I think our society, especially in the American culture, men validate women. Your life doesn't start until you have a man. You want to be picked. It's constantly this dependency on men to validate. And so if the mom doesn't have a healthy feeling of being validated, well, that's not even healthy, but if the mom doesn't have a healthy view of herself, she's going to look to validation for the man in her life, which a lot of times is the son. And then the wife is trying to get validation. So to her, that seat means more than the seat. It's, I am putting you first. And a healthy relationship, there's not a competition. You realize you're two totally different places in the person's life. So I always think that's interesting. Litos Way says, "Who are you rescuing in a fire?" My God! And there's posts like that too, where it's like the dad's coming home. Who does he hug first? The wife, the sister, the mom, or the daughter? And it's like, okay, guys. Let's see. And Sai says the mother, of course. Oh, for who you rescuing in a fire. All right, guys. So we're gonna get into the next topic, unless someone else has something to say. All people in the world are joining. What were you saying?
I have a question. So if you had a parent who passed away at a young age, how does that affect you in your relationships? If people are looking to, date someone similar to their father or their mother, and that one of the roles was not there, how does that affect them in dating? I have been told that I'm very much like my father. I've been told that my father was an amazing man. Like, he was in the military, he was in the Vietnam War, he was a teacher, he loved students. Like, I've heard so many students say, "Man, I loved your dad," and the things he taught me. And so I am always hurt when I think about him passing, because I know that he would have been in my life had he lived. So I always wonder, like, if you had if your mom passed away, or if your dad passed away at an early age, how does that affect you in your dating choices? Because I don't have that role to, like, I don't know if I'm looking for that, because I don't know what that is. I never got a chance to get to know my father. So I'm just curious if there's any correlation or connection between people who've lost a parent and how that affects their dating choices.
I would say something very briefly, and then if anyone wants to jump in, please let me know. I would just speculate, with pure speculation. I'm not a therapist, but I would think that there would probably be a high probability that that person puts more weight on that spouse, like the expectations being higher, because it would be filling this void that was there, and trying to compensate for that. The same way somebody with abandonment issues, if they didn't pass, but for whatever reason they weren't present in their life, or maybe they didn't accept, their parent didn't accept them in some way, I would imagine that there would be a heavier burden on that potential person, just like any other unhealthy state of being. That would be my speculation. Like, again, I'm not a licensed professional. Does anyone else have an answer for Latoya, or a guess? Y'all are quiet. Okay.
Yeah, that one is over me. I wouldn't know how to even answer that one. Yeah, but I would say the same thing like you, that void, especially when you're talking about a father and a father figure, that's what you would be looking for, to be honest with me.
Yeah, that's true. And there might be more of a dependence on that, someone to tell you what to, not tell you what to do, but, lead you and provide for you and things like that. I got to give a huge shout out to Saya and Tony, who just joined in. Are, see, right here. No, right here. I'm trying to use my camera. They're right here. Super excited. They're tuning in from Atlanta. You guys, this is my tribe. These are my people for the last 6 years. They have poured into me. I love using the phrase sarcastically. It's just social media. Well, we are social as hell, and we are friend. A lot of you guys on here I'm friends in real life, offline. You know, I like to say real life, like this isn't real. But thank you guys so much for everything you guys did for me the first 6 years to really push me out into the like a bird getting out of the nest, pushed me onto YouTube and really get out there. So love to you guys. Lithos Way says, or First Sight says, I was taught that it's based off of age as far as who gets the preferential treatment. The elders always sat in the front. The thing is, I think a lot of times the mom will abuse it, and she knows what she's doing and is trying to kind of provoke the wife. Lithos Way says, well, personally, the absence of a parent kind of skews the perception of what a healthy relationship should be. That's a great point. Anthony says, question, who then was the main male influence in your life, Latoya?
I didn't have one.
There was no uncle, no cousin, no big brother that...
No, my mother had me later in life. And even though she had like 6 sisters and 7 brothers, many of them passed away before I was born. So I never met my grandparents on either side. I never met a lot of relatives who had passed away from various forms of cancer. And then my dad was the only child. And then like his mother died early. His grandmother died before him. So it was just my mother.
Wow.
And it's crazy because my dad is more of the driven, go-getter, disciplinary type. My mother only got a high school education and worked like minimum wage jobs to support and raise me and my sister, because my father died and my sister's father passed away, both from cancer, but we're 14 years apart. But yeah, there was probably not a male role model until I got into high school. There was a guy there that kind of helped us with the seniors planning things and stuff like that. That was more of like a father figure, but that didn't happen until later,
Okay. Yeah. That's and I was gonna say she didn't.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes, go ahead, Dee.
Okay, so my question to Latoya would be, not even thinking about male-female relationships from the romantic standpoint, do you feel and desire to have a father figure in your life?
That's good. Outside of a romantic partner, do you want that figure?
Don't know.
Okay, if you don't know, that's fine. If you don't know right now, it's something to consider, okay? Because your mate does not have to be a father figure. If you desire to have a father figure in your life, good. I am asking you to determine that first, but then consider an actual father figure in your life. I am certain that there's a mentor somewhere out there for you. I don't know what you believe, but if you believe in the same God that I do, pray and see what comes of that. If God would bring someone into your life to help you in that way, it's never too late to have a father figure. I had my mom and dad been married 50 years, but there are some other people in my life. Yeah, I tell people I've had a great example, and I do believe that. But also there are some other people in my life who were also fathers to me as well. So I've been very, very fortunate in that way. So I know that that's also out there. There were some things that I could go and tell. My college band director was a mentor and a friend. And there were some things that I said in his office and told him that I know I couldn't go tell my biological dad. So I think it's out there for you if you feel like that's something that you need.
I love that.
Maybe, and maybe work on that and let the focus on romantic relationships be about romantic relationships. What is it that you need in a partner? What is your love language? Let that be what you're looking for in a romantic partner, and not necessarily a father. You can get that elsewhere.
Got it. Thank you.
I love that. Welcome. And I was thinking about it. I had a friend that I was confiding in, and I was really frustrated about one of the relationships in my life, a blood relative, and I was disappointed about it. And they kind of did the proverbial like whoosh, and said, forget the title. Forget the title of, this relation to you. Look at how many people you have as surrogates. And it kind of woke me up. And it was like, don't be so selfish that you're so stuck on, not saying this to you, Latoya, by any means, but they were telling me and got me together, like, don't be so stuck on this particular person is not giving me this. And it really helped. Because for me, the holidays are kind of tough. And, as opposed to hanging out with people who have offered, I prefer to just be at home because I wasn't getting it from where I wanted it. And they were like, go on and get that. So I love what you said, Dee, because that's reminding me, to cherish the relationships that I have that aren't necessarily that blood relative, or they might be a blood relative that's taking the place of a different blood relative. Saya, it looked like you were going to say something. Am I mistaken?
I was. I actually wanted to, she made a really good point. I'm sorry, I can't see her name.
Latoya. Latoya is the one who originally asked the question, and Dee was the one who just responded.
Hold on. I can't see her name because I can't see. Let me put my glasses on. One of the questions I want to ask, have you noticed maybe a pattern in your dating? Do you find yourself more attracted to, say, more domineering type of man, or maybe men who kind of run the show? Do you see that as a pattern or not at all?
Yes, but I would say that I'm kind of an alpha, and I'm attracted to alphas. Okay. And sometimes that can be beautiful, and sometimes that could be a match made in hell. And so I don't know if they say, like opposites attract, because I see myself like, I like to talk. I have a dominant personality. I'm very driven. I can't be with somebody that's shy. I can't pull teeth to have a conversation, right? But they say opposites attract, and that might be better for you because you balance out each other's strengths and weaknesses. In my last relationship, we were both alphas, we're both dominant, and we had the same strengths and weaknesses, which is horrible. Because we didn't balance each other out,
right?
And when, like, for example, I'll tell this story. We almost broke up over the World Series. Okay, so
not the World Series.
Yes. Okay, so I'm from Cleveland, right?
Were y'all playing in the World Series?
Hold on. Let me tell you. Okay, take it back to 2016. Okay, he's born and raised in Chicago. I live here now. I'm born and raised in Cleveland. I relocated to Chicago. That year, the Cavs won a title, and then the Indians was in the World Series against the Chicago Cubs, and so when the Cavs won, we made a bet. I'm like, if the Cavs win, you got to come to Cleveland. You got to go to parade with me. And so when it was the Cubs and Indians, he had the bet with me. Like, if the Cubs win, you have to go to parade with me, and you got to wear Cubs stuff. And so when we went up 3-1, I talked all kind of shit. I bought his stuff. I was ready, okay? And we lost. Got our ass kicked. Well, I do believe if it wasn't for the rain delay, we could have pulled it off. But whatever. So the day of the parade came. It was like 5 million people at this parade in Chicago. And I didn't go. I couldn't do it. And he was so mad at me because he's like, I went when your team won, you should go. And I said, no, I didn't lose to the Bulls, right? So, like, your team eliminated mine. Why the hell would I go to this damn parade with you? He didn't talk to me for like a whole fucking week. Like, he was so mad. He was ready to break up. And I was like, okay, I am not doing sports bets anymore. Because we're both like die hard about our own teams. So, yeah, we both have the same.
Bet's a bad.
Right.
Bet's a bad.
I don't think that stick with that. You roast on a bet. You got to ride with that.
Yeah, you remember
I don't know.
Hey, hold on. Remember when D Wade and Bron made the bet, and Bron wore the the Cubs jersey to a Bulls game? So like he would bring that in my face like all the time. Like, he didn't talk to me. He
yeah,
did.
you reneged though. I probably wouldn't talk to you.
I did. I know.
Like a Cowboy.
You received the chop.
That sounds like a Cowboys fan. It does.
Yeah, Latoya. You got Cowboys out of this. What is going on?
He's trying
Getting tight. It's getting real tight.
I have a comment about the father figure thing. I think it's a I think it's very important that we view our parents in a very filtered light. And what I mean by that is, it is good to look to our parents as examples of manhood and womanhood. It is not good to look at our parents as an example of a partner or a love interest. And the reason I say that is because the relationship between a father and a daughter has a level of sacredness, or that's sacred. And a father can do things that a husband can't. A father can disappoint, a father can come short, a father can, he doesn't have to be perfect because in the eyes of his daughter, he is. So he's put on a pedestal, and then she does everything she can to support him and keep him there. And a lover doesn't come in with that same level of grace. And the same thing with a mother and a son. Also, I applaud any relationship that lasts, 10, 20, 30, 50 years. But I think it's really dangerous as the children of people that had that longevity to view their relationship through a lens of perfection, because we don't know what happens behind that closed door, right? Or to get them there. We don't know what happened before we came along. We don't know what happens when we go to school. We don't know what happens when that bedroom door closes. And so we get a very skewed view of their relationship, because I know as a parent, I'm only going to show my child what I want my child to see. I'm not going to allow my child to see the intimate details, the dirty, the arguments, the worrying about money and all that stuff. And so when I look at that relationship, I got to remember I'm only seeing from my vantage point. So I can't, fantasize about having something like that without realizing that there's a whole part of that I don't see.
I think that's a really fair point, but let me just say this real quick.
Okay.
I'm not the person with the concern, but I am the person that brought up the longevity of my parents' relationship. And I do not, under any circumstance, view them as perfect. I fully recognize that they aren't. I do, however. No. I'm just simply saying that I do view them as a really good example. And I think one of the conversations that happens surrounding this kind of thing is people saying, I've never seen it, so I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I've never seen an actual healthy marriage. I've never actually seen a healthy relationship. And I think that's also something that we need to get away from. There are plenty of people who never pick up the instruction manual, but are able to well put together a bookshelf. I also agree and want to reiterate again the other thing that you're saying about not looking for, which is what I began with, not looking for the parental figures in a mate. I think what we really need to do in that situation is we have to look at what are my needs. I'm very different from my mom in a lot of ways. I have to look at what is it that I need from a partner, and then focus on that. The father figure situation, I think that can be gained elsewhere. And here's a shameless plug for therapy. If it's something you really can't get over the hump of, there's probably something you have to be talking to somebody about. And I just wanted to make that distinction about the example part of it. I believe that I've had a really good example, but I think there are plenty of people who are healthy, mentally and emotionally, for relationships that didn't have an example at all. Yeah. We really have to get away from that conversation. Well, I didn't have a dad in my life, so I don't know how to be a dad. Or I didn't have a man and I was raised by a single mother, so a single mom can't raise a man. And we really have to get away from some of that, because
I have to jump in on this. Right?
Let me chime in just a bit. I would like to say, when you making those kind of comments, you have to understand that people receive nurturing a little differently than others. You know what I mean? So some people need more nurturing and an example of what it's supposed to look like. That's why you have teachers. That's why you have guides. That's why you have mentors. And technically, that's why you have parents. And so when some children don't receive certain aspects of that nurturing and attention and instruction from parents, it can be an imbalance of what it is and what it's supposed to be, because naturally, that's the natural order of life. So even in growing up, you just can't say, let's get away from that conversation when it is a conversation.
I also said some too. So let's be clear. I said some. That's not for everybody. Be clear that I said some.
Gotcha. Understood. So
I just want to say I have a daughter, right? And Tony, I hear what you're saying, but one of the things that I'm conscious of is the way that I am as a man, because at the end of the day, I would like for my daughter to seek the type of man that I am in a mate.
No, I agree.
That's a fine line between what it is that you're saying. I get that. Yeah. And I respect 100% what you're saying, and I'm with you. But I just know me and the way that I move in life, the way I just go about being a man. I want my daughter to seek a man like me. I'm not going to my daughter's house, and she's 27 years old, if she has a man in her life to do the work in her house that man probably could do himself. I'm not the first telephone call that my daughter should be making to.
That's on the test as well.
And I want to say, I think it's very valid, and I think it's very important that a daughter should want to love a man like her father. A daughter should not expect to be loved by a man like her father.
I want to address that.
So that's the distinction that I was trying to make. You're absolutely right. You're the blueprint for what manhood is.
Exactly.
You are not the blueprint for how a relationship should work.
Between
and I think that's the issue that comes into play. And the last thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up to LaToya, is your father's story obviously exists. So although his presence you miss, you are not missing out on who he was through the stories and through the legacy that he left. And I think you should, personally, I think you should embrace that. That we have built whole belief systems around people that we've never met in the physical. You know, we only have the stories of what they've accomplished and what they've done and how they've affected others. And through those stories, you can formulate that love and that honor and that respect for him. And you can use him through those stories as that blueprint that you're looking for. So you're not without a father figure. You're just not without a physical father figure here on earth. So that's all I was.
And I want to say,
before we transition off this this topic, just to Jerome's point and Tony's point, I think the other piece to that is also that women have to own is that it's really easy when you idolize your father, because when you grow up with your father, that's kind of something that happens.
You're no wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, I even think about who my father was. He's a very manly man. He's just, he took care of things. And to me, how my father treated my mother was flawless. But they only showed me the good thing and never said anything bad. So when I began to have certain issues, in my relationship, it would be like, well, you're not this and you're not doing it because I only saw what they showed me. And so I took some of my issues to my father, like, well, this happened and this happened. And he had to sit me down and was like, you know how long it took your mama to get me together on that?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
so
if you don't take your ass home to that man, he'll be all right.
There might have been a compromise that you didn't know about.
Right, exactly.
And
so I think that's the key is that it is, I think men and women naturally gravitate towards, mothers and fathers, mates that remind them of their parents. But we also have to remember that we don't always know the backstory. And so your partner is not going to be as flawless in your eyes as your parents were.
Right.
I want to say this really quickly. First of all, before I forget, I want to plug Cabs and Combo. It's this video series that Tony and I started years ago. This is Tony here. We started years ago, but because of the schedule, when I had to still work my 9 to 5, it was a lot to keep up with. But now that I'm doing this full time, we've picked it back up. And for the last couple episodes on YouTube, that's been who's featured. He is amazing, and he has a book. I'm going to let him plug it really quick before I make my point, as I am all about the plug for the homies. So, Tony, if you want to let them know what the title of the book is and where they can find it, I'll make my point.
Sure. It's called Unsolicited Dating Advice from an Unqualified Source, and it's available on Amazon.com.
And the author's name is Tony Massey, Massey. So make sure you guys grab that if you want So I am obsessed with this podcast with Mike Tyson called Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson. And he said something that just blew me away. He was talking to uh Boosie, I think
Boosie.
Boosie. I
Yeah.
can never say these rappers' names right. Boosie. And I'm sorry, he pronounces it Bootsy. That's why I was thinking it's Boosie. Boosie. And he was saying how, Boosie was saying how he had a great relationship with his mom and he just wants a woman like that. And Mike was like, hold on. He said, a mother's love is unconditional.
Unconditional.
A mother will love the son even if it hurts her because that's in your DNA. She will give her life, ultimately give her life, and the same with the dad and the daughter, right? He said, just by nature, not anything wrong with the wife or the girlfriend, but she by nature has a stopping point. If you start to hurt me or take my life in a negative turn, I am going to leave. I don't have that internal till, even though it's supposed to be till death do us part, she's not built in with that till death. She is not going to stick by in that same way because it's just something inbred to a fault. Like a parent maybe should let go at a certain point, but they're not going to because of that thing built in. And so to Tony's point, I do think that that's necessary to realize that you're always going to be more biased. And if you put yourself in the other person's shoes, you're not loving them unconditionally the way you're expecting to be loved unconditionally. I couldn't tell, Jeremy, if there was something you wanted to say at one point.
Yes, there was. I had just a thought. I might be the only one. It seems that I might be that kind of rejects this idea. This kind of it feels more like an Oedipus Rex kind of thing where we are really embracing wholeheartedly. It seems like collectively the whole Freudian concepts behind there being some kind of attraction. On a romantic level, even toward one parents, to the degree that it manifests in you choosing people that remind you of your parents. And to me, I mean, I don't know if I'm the only one on the call that rejects the idea of that. But I also want to say that Freudian is a disgraced psychologist. So, that being said, I think that we all should, I think the example thing is great sometimes, but not all the time. A lot of a lot of the time that's not the example you should be using, right? But I think that I don't know. I just wonder about our acceptance of that as a just a thing that we all are looking for, people that remind us of our parents. I think that's interesting.
I appreciate that. I want to do a quick shout out to Jordan. Jordan, feel free to jump on if you would like. He said this is good, and he's totally disagreeing. He was totally disagreeing with oh God, see now I forgot because I saw it earlier, but one of the points was being made. So you want to jump on, we would love to have you, sir. He's part of the fam. All right, guys, we're gonna get into the next topic. All right, guys, are you ready for this? Did your sex drive change over time? There was a post that talked about men who get married and everything is great. It is hot. It is steamy. It is everything he wants. And then fast forward, time happens, life happens, kids happen, and things kind of dwindled down and fizzled out. Without incriminating anyone or anybody, can anybody talk about this? Possibly if you know women who were experiencing this. The video that I did, and I touched on it on the other live streams, Val, who is one of us social media creators, he and his wife Kay, he was talking about how, and it went viral. He said, you talked me into monogamy. You wanted me to marry you. You wanted me to be exclusive and have a family, but now you're not keeping up with my sex drive, which you used to. And she was saying, over time, things have changed and yada, yada, yada. I didn't realize it was this intense. Can anybody speak to that? Yes, the Ellis's Lethos way. Can anyone speak to that? Do you have anyone? I will start. I knew somebody very close to me who, I don't know if you would say she wasn't in tune with who she was, but she's not a sexual person. Like, as it is right now, she's not a very sexual person. But for whatever reason, she slipped into this role of like super sexy Susie when she was dating her now husband and married him. And then once she got comfortable, she reverted to her natural state. So from what he saw, it went from being very sexual to not. She just never was sexual. She just kind of forced herself to be that way. Have you guys heard anyone from the female's perspective how that happens? Please, again, do not incriminate anyone or anybody.
Okay, Yonci, I'll go. I've not been married or ever had kids, but I have friends who are married and have kids, and they have said that after having children, the sex drive isn't the same as it once was before children. And then I had the other situation where I told you guys on the last video where a friend of mine who is the biggest freak I know married a virgin. And
that's right.
Is totally unsatisfied sexually. And I'm like, but you married a virgin. What did you expect? You are like the biggest hoe that I know in these streets. Like in college, okay, just different girls every day, knocking them out. So when he did get married and he married a virgin, I knew then he was not going to be happy. And yeah, he did step out. And I'm just like, if you guys are not don't have the same level, why did you marry her? And, he's all like, well, she was a virgin.
Because she was a virgin, that's all about.
Right. But I mean, now you are unhappy and cheating and not satisfied. And I'm like, you like I said, he's the biggest hoe I knew in college. Okay. So for him to do all of that and to be with a woman who had no experience, I don't know how he expected that to work.
I think that there's a book that I want to plug, and I used to have it sitting right here, but I took in the other room. But it's 500 questions to ask. It's called "Don't You Dare Get Married Until You Ask These Questions," or something to that effect. But it is such a good book. I've used it with people that I've dated, and it uncovers so many questions that you may or may not have thought to talk about. I'll give you some examples off the top of my head. Do you like to talk in bed, or do you prefer to be quiet? Does it matter how much I initiate versus you initiating? Do you prefer morning sex or evening sex? We think sometimes it's just a matter of chemistry and the passion and yada yada, but there are so many things. And I think it's really helpful if you have the conversation before you become intimate, because let's say, for example, one person loves to talk and say all kind of wild, nasty things, and the other person the whole time is like, "Oh God, just shut up! You're not narrating a sports." It would be awkward after the fact, like you've been doing this for 6 months, and now you realize that person is just going, "Oh my God." So I strongly recommend that. I'll do my best to remember to type it in the comments or type it in the description after I do this video. So if you guys don't see it in the comments, just comment. Don't see the description, comment, and I'll put it in there. I want to let you guys know, if you guys just tuned in, let me know what city and state you're watching from so I can shout you out. IMW and Fly says he was the fool. He's cracking up with the story about getting his virgin, the freak getting the virgin. Lithos Way says he wanted to be the one to mold her, it sounds like.
Can we go back to being virgins and not having any experience till we get married?
It really would make things a lot easier, honestly.
What you saying?
I did a whole video on that, and a lot of people I know are going to go, "Oh my God." But really, I recommend, just for argument's sake, watch my video called You've Been Bamboozled. And I really took some time to think about it. And this is not a faith thing. This is not a God says it's wrong. Take that out, because anybody can debate that. I don't believe in God. I do believe, God, and you can split yourself there. But if we literally take the practical argument for abstinence before marriage or before commitment and having one partner, like forget the marriage part, but just one partner, I think I make a strong argument. So I challenge anyone who thinks that's hogwash, what the good doc just said, and video and see, what you have to say about that.
I agree.
Yes.
So I want to speak to the example about a woman who had a high sex drive, or maybe more consistent with sex drive, and then it went down. So a very, very, not going to incriminate, very, very, very close couple of mine. We're very close. Him and them started off very, very sexual, got married, sex drive stayed high, and then all of a sudden it changed. I would say the contributing factors were the kids. Stretch marks, we know things like that happen. And so I think she personally felt unsexy. Another thing she shared with me was her gaining weight. So that made her feel unsexy. So, you know, the stretch marks and gaining weight, mentally it played a part of her, and she became unsexy to herself. And hence, her sex drive went down as a result of that. And so, you know, we as men, we like, you know, we can rock with the stretch marks. We cool.
Tiger stripes.
Yeah, we can deal with it. But for her mentally, it was something that she couldn't get past. So as she started losing weight, she started becoming more self-confident, and then her sex drive went up. But then when she gained weight, it went back down. So they're still in it, you know, kind of going back and forth. He doesn't complain as much about it, but I think that they were going from like once or twice a week to like once a month. And then he skipped a month or two. He's like, bro, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to stay committed because my wife won't have sex with me. And I'm trying to initiate. I'm trying to, you know, do different things. Like he were literally, so some women are like this, some women aren't. They literally had to make mental love to her all day and get her prep.
Build her love tank.
Go through the whole alphabet. And then finally, you know, the stars aligned and then the moon came down and then Jesus Christ came down with some birds. And then she was ready. And so,
Santa Claus came to town.
Yeah, but he said like to go through all of that to get her ready is work. And we came into the conversation like, is it his responsibility to get her, you know, ready all the time? It's her coming to the table and having some ownership. And so that's a different topic for another day. But just sharing my experience too.
No, I appreciate that.
Another thing to consider too is as women, let's say, you know, the 40 and over club, I really urge a lot of women to get their hormones checked. As you know, start noticing a decline. I have a really, really good girlfriend who, she kind of experienced the same thing. She was like, yo, you know, I had this high sex drive and then out of nowhere, you know, there was a drastic decline. And that's very normal. I mean, around 40, you have a lot of women become perimenopausal and, you know, the process starts. And she literally went to the doctor, started, you know, taking different, you know, the hormone replacements, even different vitamins. And her sex drive came back. You know, she felt healthier, she felt normal. And so, you know, when I hear women say that, I always say, hey, have you gotten your hormones checked yet? You know, because it really, you know, if there's something that, you know, could be an easy fix, don't overlook it. And also there are health factors that play into when the hormonal changes begin that you really don't want to ignore. And, you know, drastic drops in sex drive are a good indication that, you know, one indication that you could have something else going on that needs to be addressed.
Hey, ladies, use maple root powder. Maple root powder is your best friend. It does increase libido and also have a healthy diet.
What is it called? If you could back away from the microphone just a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
It's called maple root powder. MACA root powder. It does increase libido, sex drive. It gives you hormonal balance. It's a natural herb, so you get it from your herbal stores or Whole Foods or wherever. And then I also say, like, your diet. As you age, your diet has to change as much as you change, too.
That's true.
So what you put in your body has a lot to do with how your hormones and the chemical balance or imbalance affects you as well. And also take time for self-love and self-care. You know what I mean? That's man and woman. Like, you have to take time for you, loving on you, and take time for self-love and whatever turns you on and whatever gets your mind to be more creative. Because, you know, we can get stuck and be stagnant in certain things, too. So loving on you is a big thing.
And I think it's so important, you know, with mates, a lot of times we can be so ourselves, you know, ego, which I always harp on ego and self-centeredness, but sometimes we have to step outside of ourselves and put ourselves in the other person's shoes. So maybe your sex drive has dropped, maybe you don't feel sexy, maybe what have you, but your partner is now dealing with the consequences. So I think sometimes we have to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and make it a priority instead of just going, well, this is the situation, this is how it is. Please jump in, Jordan.
I think that was another thing in this category. One of the things that it's all right. One of the things that I was kind of thinking about, you know, as I would have these type of conversations with my wife, you know, we would air out how you feel. Okay, baby, you feel that way. You don't feel sexy. The stretch marks, the whole nines, you know, similar situation. I air out how I feel. You know, I feel, you know, unwanted. I feel, unneeded in that area. And why do I always have to initiate? I'm realizing that I may have some issues with, going through life and being rejected a whole lot. So I bring rejection issues and stuff like that. And then you not acting like you want something I'm bringing to the table. So after, okay, cool, that's fine. After we have discussed and talked about how we feel, what is the next step? My thing is, what specifically do we do to solve the problem? At this point, we need to focus. And this is the point that we never got to.
Make it a priority.
We never to, okay, what do we do to put our foot down and establish essentially, okay, this is the decision we're going to make. This is what we're going to agree to do consistently, come hell or high water, because the expectation to do something needs to be set, not just on my part and what I need to do, but you taking accountability as well, and you making the decision to do something as well, hell or high water, like I'm doing.
Because that demonstrates love to you.
I think that's a really mature conversation to have, especially when you're married. If I can just offer a tiny little bit of a different perspective.
Sure.
Sometimes that shit really is just a trick. You got him now, so I ain't finna keep swinging from chandeliers. I'm just gonna keep it 100. I think everybody's really mature in this conversation tonight. I respect that. But sometimes that shit really is a trick. So many things to say, but so let me just say them, and they finna put my womanhood card on pause for a second for just being dishonest. But a lot of Black women, we have this conversation about thirst. Black women are thirsty for husbands and families and children and all of these things that we really desire. So it's a bunch of women, and trust me, I've had the conversations. I host a radio show here in Dallas, devising a plan. They're willing to do all the things that they feel like are necessary, especially from a sexual standpoint, including, the threesomes, allowing somebody else into the bedroom, et cetera, to get him. Okay, I'm married now. It's no longer necessary. And it's not just sex that happens with regards to committing in a relationship like that. I was cooking, I was cleaning, I was helping him with his lunch, I was doing all these things. And now that we are married, in the same way that it happens with sex. I was doing all these things, because now it's the concept of, well, how you get them, is how you got to keep them. Sometimes it really is, not that my sex drive has gone down. It never really was there. I was just doing what I felt like I had to do to get in this relationship, to get married, to get the ring. A lot of times women are more concerned with getting a ring than they are with the journey that's really ahead of them. So we out here representing, and some people do it just well enough, just long enough to get into the relationship. And okay, now that I'm married, because a lot of people have that mentality, if we're gonna just be honest, that everything somehow changes overnight once we get married. So he wasn't faithful before, but we're gonna get married and now he's gonna be faithful. And she wasn't really cooking before, but now that we're married, she's gonna cook. She's gonna be, this perfect wife now because I made the commitment, because I married her. Sometimes it really just is, for lack of a better word, it really is a trick. It's the hook. It's the hook, to pull you in, that kind of physicalness and high sex drive or whatever. And then we have to think of it, I think, also from this perspective. What does sex look like when we live together versus when we don't? Because if we don't live together and every time I see you, you get it, that's one thing. So maybe it feels like you're getting it more because you get it every time I see you. But now we're cohabitating, now we're in the same household. The responsibilities are different, et cetera, et cetera. So now that we're in the same household, that once a week now feels a little bit differently because we're in the same household, we see each other every day. Why isn't it happening? And okay, so that's my little piece right there. But the other thing is medication. I used to work with somebody who was clinically depressed. And so she was on Zoloft, I think. And one of the side effects, it's like literally written on the side of the bottle, is low sex drive. So that's something to consider too. Mental health has to be considered when we talk about the physical as well. Are you mentally healthy enough to have the kind of sexual relationship that your mate desires? And, we always talk about it from, the woman perspective. She ain't giving it up enough. But I think the opposite can also be true sometimes too.
Oh, it happens a lot.
Yeah, I had a friend who lost her husband to prostate cancer. And they were fighting for a minute because she was like, he gotta be cheating. He don't want to have sex,
Yes.
whatever. And by the time she convinced him to go to the doctor, he was in stage 4 of prostate cancer, and he died a year later. So
wow.
definitely a lot of things to be considered.
I'm glad you said that, Dee, about it not just being women, because I know someone personally whose husband would not touch her. And the reason was because he was frustrated in other areas. He felt like he was let down in other areas. And there are a lot of men who, because a lot of men are painted like Neanderthals, just animals who just want it. But some people, they're sapio. So if they're not mentally happy and emotionally happy and feeling fulfilled, she could wave it in front of him and he is not going to want it. He couldn't pay the $40 for his own wife.
Hey, that's a fact, Yonci. That's a fact.
There was another guy who just did not have a high sex drive because he wasn't where he wanted to be career-wise. He felt like less than a man. And as less than a man, he just didn't want it. It was like subconscious. He didn't feel like he deserved it. So I think that at the end of the day, the point is, if you are not married yet, you haven't made the commitment yet, look to see how your partner responds to your requests. No matter how big and how small, and this is why Tony and I would talk about seeing the person through all seasons, because it's easy when everyone wants the same thing. It's different when you want different things. And is it enough that you tell your partner, this is a priority? It might be a priority for you to clean, and it might not be for them. But if you express that to them and say, babe, this is a big priority for me, or being on time is a big priority, seeing whether or not they make the effort to do that thing solely because it's something that's a priority to you. And I think our culture is so wired for me, do what you want. It's all about me. It's very difficult when we come into a union because it's not all about you, boo-boo. It's about your partner. And hopefully you're with a partner who's also all about you. Yeah, go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, that's something that I recently discussed with my wife. I'm looking at all of these memes on social media, all of these posts with these words that are, when we're looking at the context of marriage, everything that this post is saying is anti-marriage material. And it is so extremely toxic of a mindset to place yourself here in this place. And then when you make the transition to marriage, where ultimately it's not about you being happy, it is about you being with a very toxic person. Don't nobody know they toxic until they get a therapist or until they with somebody essentially that shows and exposes the toxic and ugly side of them. That's the point of marriage, to make you more really a mature person, develop and cultivate the fruit of the spirit in you. And that is horrible. It's a painful process. It's about and created for you to die, to be the better version of yourself. That's why folks quit, because it hurts. It sucks.
Jordan, back up. I don't want to gloss over this. No. You're using spiritual terms, and I don't want it to get lost on people who are not.
Gotcha. My bad.
I want you to unpack. Don't forget your thought, please. But you said we have to die. Believers know what you're talking about. Break that down for people to understand what is dying. What's dying in that person.
Okay, cool. There's something
that ego.
Okay, man, listen.
Because
okay.
I don't mean to throw you a curveball if you don't get the alley-oop that I'm setting up here.
No, I get you.
Okay.
Yeah, I get you. It was death is loaded. Death is death to self. I saw in the comment, absolutely, but specifically. I'm trying to break down what fruit of the spirit is. Fruit of the spirit is just an idea, being patient.
Like what you produce.
The qualities that come out of a person. The qualities that come out of a person.
Like being kind, being gentle, being patient. These are three fruits of the spirit. Who's naturally kind, especially when you take them to that point?
Not that
Who's
point, though.
naturally gentle? Who's naturally gentle? Who's natural? Oh, meek. Oh, whoa. Let's talk about meek. Meek specifically I looked it up. Meek means not strong and stuck to your will. Being able to give over your will to the other person and put yourself behind at second to serve in service. Meek, being meek about what you really want. Who's naturally that? Especially when that person had pissed you off and hurt you and have betrayed your heart because they didn't meet your expectation. It hurt your feelings. You told them it hurt your feelings and they said, okay, well, that's no problem.
Or
so emotionally,
you rightfully are upset. Like they cheated on you or they ran through your savings. Like it's
absolutely.
Sometimes they really deserve to get.
Absolutely. So legitimately, illegitimately, emotionally, because when it's emotional, it's legitimate as well.
Yeah.
So all of these things, and I'm supposed to be meek with that person?
Right.
Screw that person. I ain't finna be meek with you.
Yes.
It's naturally that. That is death when you are those things against everything, your emotions and every other reason you would want to be. This is why like marriage is a third party. This is a third party setup. It's not just between the husband and the wife, because if it's just between y'all two, it's hopeless, like it is for so many people. But if the author, the person who designed this thing, if he's not involved in what he designed and he's not the example, then you're doomed for failure. And there are a lot of people that essentially
Let me ask you a question.
What's up?
Let me ask, what if somebody
can you back up off the mic a little bit? It's real muffled.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay.
What if somebody's in a marriage that's not spiritual or doesn't have a religion? What examples can you give them inside of their marriage, if they need examples per se, because every culture is different? You know what I mean? Different parts of the world are different. But even in the United States, people's mindsets and belief systems are different. What do you say to them about the example set for marriage if they don't have a religion or a spiritual belief?
Establish a narrative. Establish a standard. And go to therapy about it. Get very specific about the things that you want to follow so that you can achieve unanimity. That's the goal. You want to unify.
What's and the other thing is be clear about who you are. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Because your point, you giving me life right now.
I know. I want to jump in so many.
I'm like, you giving me all kind of life right now.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, because I absolutely agree with you, it's like I'm constantly seeing like all these memes, and it's always, and sometimes, it's hard because you don't want to be condescending, but it's like, for a single person to tell another single person how to be in marriage, and I'll look at that and be like, do you know how hard marriage is and how much goes into it? And this ain't it. And so one of the things I would say is knowing yourself and choosing, because nobody's perfect. Like every single person has a flaw. That's the reality. And that marriage offers an opportunity for you to get past yourself. And so, because it's a learning, it's such a learning curve. And so you can literally say, hey, these are the things I believe in. This is, how I feel. And you find someone and you guys share, some similar values. I just think it becomes very difficult because a lot of people don't take the time to figure out what they really want. And then they get in marriages with false expectations, with unrealistic expectations.
Well, I think, and I'll let you finish, Jordan. I think that in our marriage, especially, there is, we both have spiritual belief, but what reigns supreme in our marriage is the marriage. There is, I'm advocating for the marriage. She's advocating for the marriage. And so I don't put her before me and she doesn't put me before her. We both put the marriage before ourselves. So there have been times where we have a stalemate, right? And we can't decide which way to go. And, and this is why I cringe sometimes when I hear these what I describe as very patriarchal mindsets where it's like, well, I'll make the ultimate decision because I'm the man. No, what's best for the marriage? How does the marriage prevail in our decision making? And if it happens to be my decision, so be it. But if it happens to be hers, then that's fine too. But the marriage reigns supreme. So even when it comes to sex, here's the thing, something I learned a long time ago. Monogamy does not equal sex on demand. Never has, never will. You still have to work for it. And I think it was Dewana that said it. Forgive me if I messed up your name, but you know, being in the house changes things. You know, like I remember the first time I went to Perry's Steakhouse, I was so impressed with everything and how it was laid out and how they brought out the food, and it was just so amazing. And I was just like, wow. But then I moved next to one, and I ended up going all the time just after work for drinks or whatever the case may be. And it wasn't as impressive.
Speak, Tony.
It still tasted the same. Everything was great. But the, what is that you always say? Something breeds contempt.
Oh.
Familiarity breeds contempt. And so I won't lie. I'm not the full on courting Tony I was when I was in her DMs.
He was writing poetry, y'all.
I really was. And so now sometimes I have to realize that is that poetry is what I got her, you know, how I got her. Now I'm not gonna write poetry forever.
That poetry, I was there with her in the living
I'm not
room.
gonna write poetry forever, but I am going to find another way that's sustainable so that I can get what I ultimately desire. But I don't believe that just because, and this is my biggest issue with that video that you referenced when you first started this conversation, this guy is making it seem as though, look, I made this pledge to be monogamous with you, and now you're withholding sex from me, as if she reneged, as if she broke the promise. I never promised you sex on demand. I just said that, you know, we would be together. Now, if you decide to go outside of our marriage because my schedule doesn't meet yours, that's on you. But don't put that on me. You're not cheating on me because I won't give it to you every time you turn over. You know, you've made the decision to go out and add someone to our relationship illegally, but that's not on me.
I just want to say two things. Number one, come see me and come live with me are two different things.
Oh, man, that's a whole word. Put that on a t-shirt.
Right? We got to keep 100 when it comes to that, because, and it's the same with us. You know, yeah, when you come into the crib to see me, the crib is clean. But now when you're living with me, I got my shoes here. So again, come see me and come live with me are two totally different things. And we have to be like honest with each other with respect to that. Like if you're going to see the real me when you're living here, and yeah, you're going to see pieces of me, but you don't see it all until we are under the same roof, without a doubt.
Yeah, that you up text has a whole different energy when it's like, you up?
Right.
I want to qualify one thing I said that was to Jordan's point, because I don't know if I said it effectively. And when I'm coming in with false expectations, I think that there are a lot of people who believe I'm like this person's like this, and so when we get along, so when we get married, everything is gonna be great. And I just think that sometimes we have that false expectation. The reality is when you get married, that's when, you know, your real stuff comes out and that person's real stuff comes out. And then marriage, you know, the commitment to the marriage affords you the opportunity to work. You know, you're gonna have to work through some of that stuff.
You learn who you are when you
learn who you are when you get married.
Marriage is work every single day, every second of every single day. Like seriously. And if I have this saying, marriage ain't for punks, right? If you don't come to a marriage because you are in for something different. Like,
like different.
This is not for the faint of heart.
It's not. You cannot be a punk and be. You can't.
And you can love each other, and it's difficult. I think a lot of people have the misconception that, well, as long as we love each other, our loins are burning for each other, it's going to be fine. And this is where I want to unpack this. You know, I don't hide the fact that I'm a woman of faith. Okay, I don't push it on people, but it's a huge part of my identity. And so, just like if I was in the military, I would reference that a lot. I'm going to reference my faith, and I know the political correctness police might have a problem with that. It is what it is. This is YouTube. Y'all have to deal with it. So, here's the thing. I believe that take faith out of it, who you believe, how the earth got created, take that out. Biblically speaking, there are just a lot of really good principles in the Bible. So even if you believe something totally different, the Bible has so many principles that make sense. And just to give a backstory for those of you who are not, theologians, there is a concept that is described, which is the flesh, and you have the spirit man. The flesh being the thing that is imperfect. He's filled with pride. He's self-centered. He's greedy. He can, he's lustful, negative things. And the idea is that when you are in touch with the creator, the higher power, whatever you want to call it, you're in a Zen place, you are then transformed into a different person, which is a person who exhibits what we refer to as the fruits of the spirit: the joy, the peace, the love, the patience, the meekness, all that stuff. The reality is, if you have two people who are walking in the flesh, meaning you're void of any of that external source of life and goodness, you two are naturally going to want to kill each other, because you cannot have two people,
we talk about
two wild horses bridled together and think somehow they're going to magically be slow motion riding through the pastures. It doesn't mean they're bad people, but they're two totally different people. So to me, when I think of marriage, because I was married for 12 years, I did 12 years hard time, I look at it like a three-legged race. Imagine a three-legged race. You put your legs in. Well, it's beyond a three-legged race. It's like a hazmat suit. It's the zip-up, like painter suit. You're in one side, and you're one leg, and they're in the other side, and it's another leg, and you're one arm. They're one. You all have to work together. And so the thing is that, like Saya said, you find out quickly who you are, because it's all cute to be sweet and kind when you're not provoked, but baby, when you're provoked, you're like, I'm not a cusser. Oh, but these words coming out of my mouth. I don't have temper, but I just kicked down a door. Like, you will get provoked. And it's that iron that sharpens iron that makes us greater. I believe that in relationships, the way being relate, you become a leveled up version of yourself. Because if I'm a little cat lady, no shade to cats, but if I'm a cat lady living with just me and my cats, all day I can tell myself, you are great, you are fantastic, you are the best at everything. It's not until I get a partner who's like, boo boo, you smell, you don't cook that great, you don't pick up after your cats. Like, until you have a person who's going to be there telling you every day what you suck at in the nicest, sweetest way, you are going to be delusional, because that's how we are. It's self-preservation. You don't tear yourself down, or else you're gonna, implode and cease to exist and be depressed. But if you have a healthy partner who is not narcissistic, watch my other videos for toxic partners. But if you have a healthy partner, they are going to level you the hell up. And while my relationship was very difficult, and that's why I joke and say I did 12 years, credit to my ex-husband, he accelerated a sister's growth, because I came in a little wide-eyed child, fresh out of college, and I came out a grown bleep woman, which, by the way, we can't curse because it's YouTube and you can't monetize. So gotta keep my coins. I just want to say that, you guys, if you are even looking for a solution, you feel like therapy is not helping, and you're trying this and you're trying that and you're willing it to change, sometimes it's because you need something bigger than you. And so the concept of the spirit is that you are consciously surrendering to this deity, to this force that wants nothing but the best for you, and wants you to live in harmony. And so when you're both surrendered, it's like both of you agreeing to this set of rules, and it allows you to be in harmony. So if you take the faith out of it, the Bible out, let's just say it's like military, you have to agree with the same handbook. Or if you're making a recipe, you have to agree with the same book. So at the end of the day, you're at least on the same page. And there are certain principles and rules, like don't go to bed angry. It even says don't withhold sex from your partner, because that's how the enemy can come in. The enemy being the devil can come in and tempt your partner, unless you are doing it by joint agreement for the purpose of consecrating yourself before God, in that you're fasting and you want to be very in tune with the spirit. But that's my plug. An intense plug.
I just want to say one thing about marriage, is that And I hope that this can be more universal or more widely used concept that when it comes to marriage, the first thing people think about is love. But as we've talked about and had this conversation, I hear that more people, and the why I think is not love, is actually personal growth. So I think it's more important, like when people talk about, I just want to be loved and I just want to be happy, to keep in mind that the biggest concept and the banner that should be above marriage should be personal growth.
That's
you want
good.
To be married for personal growth. That's how you grow in generational success.
That's good.
Yonci, I wanted to add on to what you said, because when I think of my marriage and my relationship, right? 5 years, I was in Charlotte, North Carolina. My wife was here in New York. Every single day, before I started my day, I would write my wife a prayer, right? And whatever was on my spirit, the first thing I would do is Google scripture on, and it led me to a scripture on whatever it was I wanted to write in that prayer. So, Tony, like you with the poetry, my thing was writing my wife a prayer every day for 5 years, every single day. So I'm 100% with you. When it comes to relationship, if you are like me, a Christian, and you believe in the Bible, no matter what you think, the answer to what it is that you need is in there. Google it. I'm telling you, it will show you.
Child rearing, finances, everything.
And that's one thing. Actually, Mr. Whitehead, Dr. Whitehead, he commented on. Wait, did I say it wrong?
No, it's a joke. We like to call him Dr. Whitehead.
My bad, bro.
No, it's hilarious. I love it. We're keeping it going, Dr. Whitehead.
Yo, when you said your thing is with marriage, your first thought is personal growth. That was piggybacking off of what I was saying with Tony and yes, I just wanted to say it right. See, I done messed up names already, but check it. What you all were talking about is knowing yourself beforehand. Who does? You don't. You don't know yourself. You're not gonna know yourself. And oh yeah, by the way, stuff that pissed me off my first year in marriage doesn't piss me off anymore. Like leaving your trash in the car. Like yeah, I got to the point where I was like, well, this is just the family car. When I get my, when I'm flossing like I want to, when I have my Maserati, y'all can't eat in this. No, but this is the family car right now. You know what I'm saying? Babies are gonna have their hands on the windows. I'm a germaphobe, not a germaphobe, but don't put your sticky hands and touching all the glass and the walls no, wash your hands. That my father taught me that, and I'm starting to teach that to my kids. My wife hates it, but it is what it is. But it's like I'm getting to the point now where it's like stuff that used to kill me inside is like, hey man, it's just what it is. Are you gonna kill yourself over this? Or are you just gonna change your expectations and grow up in that area? So specifically I came up with a theory. It's totally original, but it's probably been said before, and I just don't know them people. It's called, most people, is it a deal breaker for you, or is it just an allergy? Okay, so let's talk about that. I have a peanut allergy. And when I ingest peanuts, I either one or two things. I either throw up, I vomit involuntarily now. I either vomit, I throw up, or if I don't vomit, I implode. But I always have a reaction, not a response, but a reaction naturally. And it's either an explosion or an implosion. Mm-hmm. So specifically what happens is, like say for instance, explaining explosion, do you verbally vomit? Do you hit? Do you abuse? Do you, the outer thing? Or when you implode, do you get quiet? Do you cut yourself? Do you get depressed? All of these things. So internal damage, external damage, the vomiting, you get it. Cool. There's a caveat to that though. And this is the thing that I found out that really, really started messing with me. There was a woman that sat me down and she said, you want to get rid of your peanut allergy? And I was like, She was like, yes, you do. I was like, okay. So she said, this is what I did with my daughter. I'm like, okay. I halfway don't even care, but I needed this. She said, put some peanut butter on the back of your palm every day. Rub it in. and let it sit there for 10 to 15 minutes. Wipe it off every single day. Now your body's going to have a reaction over and over and over. Yeah, but your body's going to have a reaction over and over and over and over until your body builds something called that tolerance.
Wow.
So specifically, it's your body realizing, hey, I have to change what I always had. Now I'm more in control. Hold on, baby. Now I'm more in control and can have a response instead of a natural, uncontrolled reaction to an allergy, because a tolerance has been built up in my system, because this is something I've experienced day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on
and you haven't avoided it.
That's it. I haven't avoided it. I've gone through it. I've consistently gone through it. I've introduced it to my life in small doses. And it has in turn allowed me to have a tolerance, or AKA growth, develop fruit of the spirit, whatever, all this other stuff. So yeah, that was it.
Thank you for sharing that. I really like that. That's a really nice one. And like you said, over time it'll develop. I want to give a shout out to Lamar Simmons. Lamar is an awesome guy, and I don't think he'll have a problem with me saying this, but he ended up finding his boo thing in the group as well. I love seeing love come out of this group. We have really amazing conversations, and we really I think iron sharpens iron, except for the people who want to keep talking about 50-50 paying inside. All right, I'm going to get to the next topic. Here is the next thing I want to talk about. People who have been single for a long time, are they harder to love? This is what the quote says. People who have been single for too long are the hardest to love because they have become so used to being single, independent, and self-sufficient that it takes something extraordinary to convince them that they need you in their life. And so I want to get your opinion. Are single people, is it hard for single people to love? Are single people hard to love? Sorry. And Jordan, did you have something you wanted to add before we transition to the next topic?
Yeah. Tony and Tony and Sayed.
It's okay. Oh, what I wanted to say is about, you said the thing about not knowing yourself. You absolutely, I agree that you learn who you are, especially through this journey. But the point that I'm making is, I remember, I'll even use the example that we were talking about the sex thing, how the previous woman was saying how some women use it as a trick. You know, they try to be hypersexual and then later they aren't.
Yes.
The reality is, she knew that wasn't who she was. And she sold that, and she got into a relationship with someone pretending to be something she wasn't. Whether she was pretending, or some women just, I won't say women, some people don't take the time to figure that out. And I myself was guilty. I was guilty. I was in a relationship based for being everything I was told a woman was supposed to be, to the type of man everybody told me I was supposed to be with. And I spent 5 years, and I was so unhappy, and I wasn't growing person. I wasn't fulfilled. Eventually I left, and I said, one day I said, I'm gonna be me, period. And while I can get with some of this, I can't get with all of this. And once I decided I'm gonna be unapologetically myself, I met a man who liked me for who I was.
That part.
And I feel like my life I have personally grown leaps and bounds, career-wise, spiritually, in every way, because I stopped trying to pretend to be somebody else.
Amen.
I stopped trying to fit into molds that people were trying to force me into, and allowed my truth, God to express through me, what was natural for me. And I think men and women, when you choose to live in your truth and be with someone who, you accept them for their truth, they accept you for yours. It ain't an easy journey, but you guys can help each other grow.
Yeah.
I think in your analogy,
and that's what I meant by that, by the way.
I think in your analogy, Jordan, I'm the person who comes along and says, hey, I got a way for you to deal with that peanut allergy. Up until that point, she knew she had the peanut allergy, and she made the decision to eat it and either implode or explode. And then I was the person that came along and said, hey, there's
problem solver
to deal with that. Not even a problem solver, just another vantage point, right? Because it could have not worked. right? But I'm just giving you an alternative to living with this problem or accepting that it is a problem, or the case may be.
And I think that's the key thing is I had to first acknowledge that I had a problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's why authenticity is a big, very important factor with people.
And that's what I mean by like knowing yourself. Of course, you know, we're gonna be learning ourselves till we, you know,
right.
Brave,
I'm not the person I was when we first got married. I mean, we evolved, you know.
And that's the other thing too. You have to be willing to adjust because maybe you do love your person here, and then they end up growing. Like somebody was saying, he was a pushover. He always agreed to everything, and of course his wife loved that. And then when he developed into who he was, he started standing up, and it caused their marriage to fail. I was talking to Cornelius did this amazing live. He took it down because he shared a lot of intimate stuff from people who were on there. But we bonded. It was until 4 a.m, you guys. I was on this live. I jumped on his live. But I was talking about just so much that you learn like in your 30s and 40s. And one of the things that I've learned inside just made me think of it when you're talking about being your authentic self. The reason why a lot of people shy away from their authentic self is because someone rejected that.
Yes.
Yeah.
He said, you wear your hair curly? Ooh, they made a comment. So you make a note. Oh, let me straighten my hair. Somebody made a comment, you're chubby. Okay, let me lose weight. There's all this, you get this negative feedback. So you continue to mold yourself based on what these outside people are telling you. You don't, once you get older, you realize those people's opinions don't matter. And especially in dating, like you meet your first guy or your first girl, they give you feedback, so you adjust because you want to keep that person. Then this is the new you. Then you meet that second person, they give you their feedback. You change who you are because you want to get fit in. When you have this epiphany that who is for you is for you and it will click, everything works. And the ironic thing is that when you're trying to be all these things you're not, you come across as a weirdo anyway. Like I'm an empath, I always talk about that, but most people can feel on some level energy. And so you might be that woman who's trying to pretend like she's a sexual goddess when in reality, she'd rather cross stitch all day and really could care less about having sex. When you live in your truth, you come across as more authentic and you're less weird because you're not contradicting yourself passively. Those people who say one thing and totally do another, it's because they're not comfortable in their truth. And the more you recognize who you are, it's just there's so many exponential benefits to that. And then you can be accepted by the person who actually wants you. And this all started because he was talking about how he was coming on too strong and scared a woman. And I said, don't change who you are. If you are the over the top, throw the rocks, the pebbles at her window, writing poetry, standing out in the rain with the boombox, if that's your style, there's going to be a woman who's like, God, I just wish I could be a guy who would stand in the rain with the boombox throwing pebbles at my window. And
the boombox. What's the boombox?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm showing my age. A portable stereo system. Okay, that's battery operated. You guys remember the scene where the guy's holding?
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, I'm dating myself. What's up?
I get the boombox. I'm like, this dude's doing that though. Okay, that's new.
That's a famous scene from a movie. Yes. But the point is that you also, and this goes back to the faith thing. If you believe that the Lord gives you the desire of your heart, if you have a strong desire to be with someone, there, I believe, is a perfect time where in your life where you will come across that person. And so if you look at it like a grid, you're moving on your path and that person's moving on their path, and at some point those two, what is it, not components, those two coordinates collide, and that's when you meet your person. And so if you're more focused on when that collision is going to happen as opposed to your growth, you're going to be frustrated, and you might settle for a guy here and he might settle for a girl here, but you were supposed to continue your journey and then collide here. And so I just tell people, we got into this on the speaking engagement I did with Latoya's group, is focus on learning you and lean into the belief that what is for you is going to be there. You guys, I'm going to transition to this next topic, and then I'm probably going to wrap with this. Hilarious. So this is this is only topic number 3, and I had 10 total. So clearly an hour and 45 minutes in, the first ones were meaty enough, and I'm just going to save the rest of them for next week. But I want to unpack the very last one before we go. And if anybody has to go, obviously you guys can dip just like the others, but I really appreciate that. Let's see. All right. So single people hard to love. Basically what it was saying is that single people are set in their ways and they start to feel so self-sufficient that they don't feel like they need somebody else. Would you guys agree with that statement or disagree? By a show of hands, well, people on camera, how many would agree that they are harder to love?
It depends.
And two hands and an iffy. And then how many would say that they're not harder to love?
It depends.
Vote from you either way, Jordan. And we got an iffy. Okay, so Tony, you want to unpack why you think that, and then Jerome?
Well, I think that it goes to what you were just talking about, and that is the finding self. I don't think that. I think that the reason that single people are harder to love is because they have to face abandoning this person that they created in themselves, and they have to accept that at some point they're going to meet someone who is going to fundamentally challenge that idea of who they are. And that's a very scary thing, especially if you're not comfortable with that person. We were just the other night talking, we were on this volunteer call, and we were talking about how, when does adulthood start? And, a lot of people say 18, 21, but if you look biologically, the frontal cortex isn't formed until 24. And so to, go through this stage of, 24, 34, 44, or whatever, you change who you are, and your experiences, you drag all that stuff with you along the way. And so I think at some point, if you're single for a long time, you fall into this very comfortable groove of not having to change. And that is what makes you hard to love, because you are no longer, malleable. You know what I mean? You can't be forced into situations or Jordan brought up a great point, with the car thing. If you've been single for a long time and these ain't your kids, it's going to be real hard for you to accept that mindset that this is the family car. No, this is my car. And that's not even my family.
Right.
I'm eating
and they
my
got the
car.
peanut butter sticker fingers.
Yeah. So I think that being single for a long time does put you in a mindset of you don't have to change. And then, because the one thing you're going to do when you start dating and you fall in love, you'll change. And that's why I feel like every person who is single, who makes these grand statements in these groups should screenshot them, and then send them to me. Right. You make your big announcement about how, I found Bae. I'm gonna send all that right back to you. And I'll keep that same energy.
Right, keep that same energy.
One thing I'll say, because you made some extremely good points. One thing I'll add to that is, and this is the reason why I said 50-50, just kind of like Saya. I think it has a lot to do with your skill level. Your skill level and your fruit of spirit development. If I've been, say for instance, I went through a marriage just like you. I did 12 years hard time, and it helped you mature. Mm-hmm. Okay, so say for instance, the next person you get with, because you have a certain level of patience, because you have a certain level of, and these things are already cultivated in you. You have not only that, but your last relationship also taught you not just fruit of the spirit, but emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. So you can place a person. Okay, you know what? I know you don't know that. I know you don't even realize that I know that you don't know. So what I'm going to do is, with skill, I'm going to introduce little things to you and sharpen and you don't even know I'm spoon feeding you the whole time, because I need you to catch up, and this is not necessarily I'm better than you. No. I need you to come on, because I know you've been single for a long time. So I'm going to nurture you in love and care and all these other things, but I'm going to spoon feed you. And I got the patience in the bag to deal with the fact that I know you've been single. I know you've been stuck in your ways. So when I say, is it more difficult to love you? I won't necessarily say more difficult. I'll just say it really just depends on the level of growth I've already been through, so that I can give you what you need in a way that doesn't tax me so much, because I'm mature enough to handle it.
That's so interesting you said that, because Tony knows. Tony and Saya were there. I literally came out of a date and was hanging out with them one night, and they know I was over here like, oh, Jesus. But that was the situation, was somebody had, there already was an age difference. So, there's life experience that comes with that. But even if they were my same age, I could still have had more life experience, so to speak, or I could be intellectually further along. But anyway, he already had that against him with the life experience. But that was something that I personally knew I couldn't handle. I couldn't handle knowing. I use the example of like putting a drink on the edge of the table. You have the person, like a child, who's going to see a drink at the very edge of the table and it will not phase them one bit. You have someone our age and we are triggered. We are like, get that cup. Like in our mind, we're like, it can happen.
We saw it knock over. We saw the water spill out. The whole thing. Before it happened.
Exactly. And so for you in that situation, like to use the example of the specific issue I was having, my style was let's just move the glass because my wisdom over time said, yes, it didn't spill, nothing got broken, but let's just go ahead and move that glass now because I have the foresight to. And in his limited experience, he was going, my God, can't we just enjoy this meal? Why are we stopping the good time we're having eating to take the time to move this glass when it hasn't spilled yet? And so it takes to be able to either say, okay, I'm not going to move the glass. And when, because we know it's not if, when it spills, you also have to zip it.
That part.
That's the part that's hard because you're like, and then if it was wine, you got the carpet stain that you're gonna look at every single day. And maybe that were the wedding glasses that was given to you that are one of a kind. They don't make them anymore. Now, every time I try to have my guests over, I don't have the whole set of 8. I only have 7. That is going to always be in your mind. It takes that gracious person who's advanced in that area to go, it's okay, baby. It's okay. Yeah. And you know, like the Bible says that heaping coals of fire to your enemy. I'm twisting that verse, but when you are humble and you don't take the card that is in your hand if I told you and you just set it down, it's a deeper kind of provocation. It's not provocation, it's like a heavy and then you look at that person, the lesser advanced person goes, they have wisdom. If they're a mature person, wow, they have wisdom.
That part.
Then they're touched because they're going, they still didn't let me have it. Yeah. But when you have that difference in maturity level, woo, I have the fruits of the spirit because I know this chick, she wasn't the patient. Nah, just leave.
Patience of Job to go with it.
Look, I was like, I'm gonna take my glass and me and my leftovers, and I'm out. I'm gonna go hang out with Tony.
I wanted to jump on what Jordan said because in my first marriage, I was married 20 years, right? So my second wife was never married, right? And when that happens, the difference is that person who has been single for that long has an I, me, and mine mentality. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You are not patient. This ain't for you. Okay? So it took a lot of patience to turn it to we, us, and ours. Because no matter how you slice it, no matter how you think of it, that's what this is, us, right? But getting there, like there would be times I have to take a deep breath. I mean, so I'm never gonna say, and I should have tailored it. I should have did what Saya did, which is like this, because it's not hard to love him. I love her. I loved her no matter what, no matter what. But it became more of a challenge, more of a mental grind, in order to get out of that I, me, mine mentality. And on top of that, like with the mine, she's a only child. So that mind is embedded, right? Like, it would constantly be, well, you use my, like, what? Like, it's, boo-boo, let me break this down to you. So
you have the added challenge of not being able to reference your point of wisdom.
Oh,
Because
yes.
don't nobody want to hear about what you and your last wife did.
The first missus.
So you can't even bring out the point of wisdom. Look, I've been through this.
No.
I know what's going to happen on page 6. I don't want to hear about that because I'm not sure,
Tony, I was intentional. Never.
Yeah, you had to be. You had to be.
Do I look like Shaniqua?
My goal at the end of the night is to not get punched in the face.
Right. So, yeah, you don't even have the benefit of referencing your wisdom, because like with Yonci's situation, look, I've been here before. If the glass is too close to the table or to the edge of the table, it's gonna fall off. Okay, so that's one thing. But for you, it's like, look, well, how do you know that this is gonna happen this way?
So that's why I say it's that internal mental grind, and you just have to constantly be positive about it and most importantly be loving about it, right? Because it could go wrong very quickly, but if you're loving about it and patient about it, I think patience is probably one of my strongest things. I'm extremely patient. So for me, it was about being patient, and still to this day, it comes up, and the look is really like serious. So, that I, me, mine, when you are single, that becomes a challenge, especially for however long it is.
I love that. You guys, this is awesome. I want to acknowledge the person who came on. I can't read the font. Who just joined us so I could say hello?
Oh, yes, Suka.
You said your name was Suba?
Suka.
Suka. Okay. Well, welcome to the broadcast. Jermaine, did you have anything that you wanted to say? Oh, he's been listening in.
Oh no, y'all doing a wonderful job. I'm sitting up here washing dishes. I think I had a lot to say in the thread, and I've been single for 47 years, never been married. And I can honestly say that I'm both. And it's more on the person that I'm dating. It's more about that person. And there was this show called it was on NBC, and the guy, they had monsters on there, but only the guy could see the monster. I wish I knew the name of it. Dang, it escapes me right now. But anyway, it was like he was this, whatever the name of the show was, and there were people that looked like, werewolves and demons and rats and all that. And then when they would see him, they would see a reflection of themselves and get scared.
Oh.
So he would, and he, his family was trained to kill them. And so I think, and just in looking at that, Jordan, you turn your head on, the show, you think you heard of it?
The show's called Grimm.
Grimm. There you go. Thank you. My man, Grimm. So you're familiar with it. You're familiar with it. And so when they see a Grimm, they would see a reflection of themselves and they would get scared. I think that, you talked about earlier how relationships can show you that ugly part of yourself that you don't see on your own a lot of times. And so, see how I set that up. And so, but one thing that I've realized about myself is, as far as men, I think a lot of men, I've heard them say they knew from the moment that they met her. Boom. And sometimes we'll get with that person, and then sometimes we'll get with the person that we like a lot and they treat us the way we want to be treated. But to be honest, sometimes we run into that person that if they don't change, if they don't do a thing, we're still going to be in love with them. And I think as part of that for me is that if I'm dating the one person before trying to give it a chance, because I have done that after heartbreak. And I was like, you know what? I need to be with a good spiritual woman who, whatever. But when I really like somebody with a little hood in them, but that's not getting me anywhere. So when I try to do that, I'm really not giving them my all. But that other person who I see something in, I give them my all. And I'm gonna say it just like this, and I'm gonna end. I have this this peanut butter and jelly example. And if you take Amy, and she makes a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I like it with an equal amount of peanut butter and jelly. But if Amy puts way too much jelly and a little bit of peanut butter, I might say, "You're how old? Like, you don't know how to make a peanut butter jelly? Why did you put all this jelly on there and like hardly any peanut butter?" Like, I'm gonna question her. But if Becky does the exact same thing and I really love her, I'm gonna be like, you know what? I really like it with more peanut butter on it and less jelly. But guess what? We got the rest of our lives to perfect this sandwich, boo. And it's my whole outlook on the woman that I really care about that kind of brings out in me the things to do better. So some relationships bring out the best in me. Unfortunately, some relationships have brought out my insecurities and brought out the worst. So that's all.
I appreciate your vulnerability in saying that.
I guess the question. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to ask Jermaine, can I ask you a question? Have you noticed that the older you get, the less you run into the Becky and the more you run into the Amy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
and I think that's where a lot of people will, and I really hate to call it settling, because in our honesty, we're really trying to find ourselves too. We're really trying to say, okay, what's best for me? What do I need as a mature man? Because maybe some things that were important to me at, 32 is not that important at 42.
That's true.
So,
Yeah.
you just find
6'3" requirement going away.
I guess one of my biggest things is, did you ever challenge? I guess my thing is, if I know specifically that there is something best for me, but there is, for whatever reason, I can't get there. I just don't have it. Is there ever something that you do to challenge that? Okay. Because like you said, Yonci, I'm faith-based as well. And for me, if I see purpose and I understand purpose and destiny in a relationship, and it is divine, but there is a blocking, then what do I see? Do I see it as something that, okay, this is just seasonal for right now that I just can't break through? Or is this I'm just never gonna, or is this something where maybe I just need to have something revealed to me that is why. So I need to this needs to be broken in me so that I can envelop and have all and appreciate all of that I'm getting from it. Is it ever challenged? What's up?
So, and not to cut you off, because this is real good, and I'm glad you asked that, and I want to talk now since I haven't talked the whole time. But I would say this, that I have done that, and I have dated, and it hasn't got there. And after a year, it wasn't there. After 2 years, it wasn't there. And I would love them until they made me upset. And that's unfair to her. How long? And one of the hardest conversations I had to have with a young lady is to let her know I didn't love her the way she loved me. And I'm thinking about disengaging from the relationship. When I tell you, she was to this day, she's still one of the best people that I know on planet Earth. What I did was I left her and I got with someone just like her again. And we dated on and off for 7 years. And I had to be real with myself. There was other things because she kind of saw that I wasn't there 100%. Sometimes we can fool ourselves, but not the other person. But I think a woman thinks that they can change us. They're gonna stay in there until we change, or you know what? I'd rather have 50% of him because he's a great guy than 100% of these fools out here. And that's what happened. And I had to be real. But then she would keep leaving. So now I'm with another great person, but now I've gotten these abandonment issues. So when that question came up, you know, is it harder for people to change? Now I'm starting to build these walls, you know, kind of insecure in some places, why you want to be with me, what you about. I know I got it going on, but you don't know I got it going on. Like, okay, Jermaine, pull yourself back. Like, take a step back, take a breath. So these things can happen. But my biggest thing is women will say, well, I just wasted my time. I wasted 3 years when, you know, it's a learning process for us both. But I just want, at some point in time, you know, we really just need to be honest with each other. And I have to continue to be honest with myself.
Leonard is saying, Leonard's watching, he said, wow, it's the spirit, not the person he's dealing with.
Yeah, you know, you have to be, I like to say being in alignment with yourself. Like knowing, and that means like being true to your core values and who you are as a man and going through healing too. You know what I mean? Because every time you're in these different experiences, you're taking on more baggage, more pain, more disappointment from both sides. You know what I mean? And so you're being in alignment with who you are as a man and understanding what brings you peace, understanding your tolerance level for whatever that is, and making sure that you are standing on your principles first before you go seeking another relationship. You know what I mean? And that takes a lot of growth, it takes a lot of maturity, and it takes a lot of wisdom. You know what I mean? Being in alignment with yourself, being in alignment spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and also being in alignment with nature too, because all that plays a part as you evolve. You know what I mean? So like, and as the older you get too, just remember that, bro, you have to address those different things inside of you first before you pursue something else.
I got you on that, but let me challenge you in this. Because here's this thing, my brother. I fast, I pray. Listen, like I would challenge any guy that I see. When I was in college, I went 2 years without sex because my relationship with Christ was that strong, and I was serious about what I was putting out into the atmosphere. I saw this movie called The Last Fling with John Ritter and Connie Selica. Y'all too young to know who they are. And it was about finding that person. And I was like, you know what? I was in the 7th grade. It was on ABC. And I said, I'm going to find that person that I'm going to marry, and it's just going to be wonderful. And so I've been purposeful for a long time. So for anybody to say, well, brother, you broken and da-da-da-da. Man, I know hardcore players that have gotten married. I mean, they was with strippers the night before, got married, and they're better men today. So I say all that to say, yes, we got to be real with ourselves. We got to work on ourselves. But there's so many boys getting married. But when you get, I'm talking from a spiritual perspective, when you get God in the mix, he can do some amazing things. And let me end it by this. I know this is just a movie, but I love Medea's Family Reunion. I love that movie. And there were 2 sisters in the movie, and one of them was dating Boris Kojo, who was a bus driver. And she had all these issues, and she had been molested. And so that was a wound that she needed to deal with. And there was a certain part in the movie where, because she had been molested, she said she would never allow that to happen to her children. And Boris Cujo was just a great guy. You know, he was after her, he was persistent, he was loving. There's a part in the movie where he took the kids to get some ice cream and she fell asleep. Good man. He like, look, my baby sleep. I'm gonna let her sleep. I'll take the kids. She don't have to worry about anything. She woke up while they were gone and went into a panic. So those old issues, those old fears arose. And then when he came back, she basically said, throw my number in the trash. Don't ever come here again. Get out of my life. Now, my brother, if that was me, that part of the movie would have been over. And I remember that. I would have said, you don't know a good man when you see one. You know what? And just read her rights. You're going to always be in this position. But what he did taught, what's that, Don?
Remember,
but what he did taught me.
Remember,
what he did was he grabbed her and he said, you poor thing. And he loved that out of her. All I'm saying is we're never going to be perfect. We always going to have something to work on. But that other person should be, if marriage, relationships is about that other person. And it's about seeing that other person be that best person. And it's about grabbing them and saying, I want to see you be the best Jerome and Jordan and Yonci and Antoine and Tony and Cy and LaToya. It's being the best person that they can be and invest.
Love the hell out of them.
Remember, he said some men come to restore. And for me, that's the best line in that entire movie.
Right.
Real. Some men do come to restore. And no matter what she did, she was not going to lose that brother.
Right.
I love that.
I think.
Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I think you got, Jordan, you said something earlier, which speaks to something you just said, Jerome, and I just think it's so important. You said some people have developed themselves to the point where they can actually see like, hey, I'm going to help you. I'm going to spoon feed you. You don't even know that I'm helping you grow. And what you just said is some men, the whole concept that some men come to restore and you just going to love someone, through something. Mm-hmm. It is so important because we've all heard the saying, it's not what you say. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. And I think it takes a certain level of maturity and a certain level of patience and general kindness, if you will, to say, hey, I realize that that you're having a struggle, an issue or whatever. So I'm not going to just say, hey, you need to stop doing this shit. I don't like this, da-da-da. I'm going to actually help you through this. I'm going to help develop you, help grow you up. And, y'all know I'm in the group. I'm like, I'm super nice until somebody says something and I'm triggered and I'm, God's still working on my heart. Maybe you can, give me some extra pointers with that, Jordan. You seem like you got that together. But it's hard for me when I see people want to say something that could be taken positively, but they frame it in this such insulting or negative way. And I'm like, you're not helping people grow. You know what I'm saying? By, giving them hardcore dogma. Because you can spoon feed someone a whole bowl of stuff they wouldn't even want to eat if you actually, do it with kindness and you've come here to restore.
Yeah.
If that's your intention, if your intention is to restore, you spoon feed.
And I think there's a difference between restoration and repair. And I think that I know I've been guilty of being the repair man because it gave me something to do. It gave me purpose. It gave me a sense of duty, right?
Yeah, Mr. Fix-It.
Mr. Fix-It, yeah. And the problem with being a Mr. Fix-It is that either one, the person doesn't want to be fixed, or two, you fix them to a point where now they're no longer broken, and now you don't feel purpose anymore. Mm-hmm. Now you feel like, well, what am I bringing to the table? What you don't have these problems that you're laying at my feet anymore. You don't need me anymore. And so I think that restoration is a very good word because restoration is a much slower process, and to restore something to its natural beauty means it doesn't necessarily going to have to look like it did originally, right? So you think of a museum or something like that, like the Mona Lisa. I had a chance to see that at the Louvre, and it does not look the way it looks when, it was originally painted. It's cracked, whatever, but it's been restored to something that can be enjoyed and that is beautiful. So that wasn't fixed. It was restored. So I think that's a really good word that was used there.
I think one of the hugest things that a lot of people, I won't just say men, but a lot of people who are in positions where they are spoon feeding. I think one of the most powerful things that is not acknowledged or not thought about or not put into the equation as to help to help somebody. Prayer.
Man,
like individual not necessarily even with them. Yes, with them, joining hands, touching, agreeing, all that stuff. But in your individual prayer time that you have, you are not going to be the one, because most times when you hear something from your partner, they automatically you're automatically tuned out, because there's a possibility that what you're suggesting could be self-serving. So because of that, and I ain't really trying to hear that. But essentially, if you're praying and in prayer, and then all of a sudden they driving home and they got the radio on, and then they hear something, oh man, that said, something that it finally got through. Though they said the exact same thing you said, the exact same way, it got through because it was somebody who didn't have any irons in the fire. Mm-hmm. So the whole time you've been praying, the whole time you've been steadfast, the whole time you've been, God, I just want this. And he's the the three legs and the three legs and the, I forget what we called it, Shabako, the relationship. Yeah, that you have that third party that is working in your favor, because God he's in favor of the marriage. He's not in favor of the individuals.
Yeah.
So involving him is absolutely. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and the thing is that when you're walking in the Spirit, meaning you have those gifts and attributes, and just to also tie this in, when it says the fruit of the Spirit, the Bible is full of analogies. And so he is described as the tree, the base, the heavy part, the trunk, and that we are the branches that are coming out. And the way that you know that you are connected is that you have the fruit. So if I say I have a lemon tree in the backyard, but there's apples growing out of it, that will tell you something. Or if I have one branch and it's got cherries coming out, but it's supposed to be a lemon tree, that's where that comes from, but the fruit of the Spirit. So when you are tapped in and you have that resource, you then have those qualities that allow the person to be most malleable. And that's the irony. Because if we act one way, it's like a person being like clay, taking on the traits of clay. The sun's coming, it makes it harder. But when you have those other traits, it's like making them butter. That sun comes out and it softens them. And so when you take yourself out of it, take the ego out, the pride out, the anger, the frustration, and you genuinely have a heart for that person, whether it be the low sex drive or, all the other things, or looking for a daddy figure and you're like, I'm not it. When we have that spirit coming out of us, it makes that person pliable. Because when you evoke anger and all those other negative things, they're distracted by that. It's like smoke. You can't see. The problem is still there. They could have seen it, but you and inserting all of your ego, it's smoky. And now the other person, I can just concentrate on the smoke. So I'm going to spend all my time focusing on the smoke, and I never get to see what was there right in front of me because you filled the room with the smog, smog machine or whatever. So when we have that strength through him, because that's the other thing, he gives you the strength to do it. You don't have to will yourself into being patient. You're not grinding your teeth because you're trying to say something. He genuinely gives you a gentle spirit, and things that someone else is like, child, I would have popped her in the face. You don't even notice it because he transforms you, which, shameless plug, I'm going to be doing I'm a trans Christian video. There's a change that happens. And so when you are walking in the flesh and you don't have that extra divine spirit coming through you, you are going to be a monster. When you have that divine spirit, you become gentle like a dove. I want to close out here because we're now 2 hours and 20 minutes. I will keep going, y'all. I know I have fun, but you guys are being so patient and sticking around. Something about tonight was just extra special. I feel like the heavy hitters came out. Everybody had something to contribute. I'm such a sap, but I will say this to the end. You guys are amazing. I love that everyone had different perspectives to share. I love the harmony, which always has with my people. Everybody is respectful, gets along. I love the fact we had representation of all walks of life, divorcees, single, never been married, married multiple times. I love that. And I really hope that everybody who's watching can benefit in some way, shape, or form. I know my channel is very different from a lot of the content that we see out there. There's videos preaching about women get as many coins as you can and men get as many cheeks as you can, and there's a lot of stuff, and this is going against the grain, but I really hope that it resonates with people and they can go, well, that other stuff isn't happening. They might get the ring, they might snag the person, but at the end of the day, these people are miserable and they're cheating and they're hurting. And so what we have experienced hand is the joy that can come from doing it this way. So we're kind of like an extension of your family, brothers and sisters out here. We want to connect with you guys. We hope that each time you come in and get content, you get life that makes you just your existence more abundant. And it's not about having money. It's not about having this and that. It's about having peace that this says passes all understanding. You can't explain it. It's just, it's better than the best sex you can imagine and the best meal. Anyway, guys, so I want to say thank you. Before I close out, did you guys want to add anything before I do my little shameless plugs here at the end? Any of you 6 that are still remaining? All right, it sounds like everybody is good to go. Guys, I just want to say thank you again for watching. This is everything. I'm going to be dropping my first vlog video, which I'm super excited. I was editing it today. The plan is to drop it this week. It's actually a toss-up between doing the Mama's Boy video or the vlog video, and shoot, I might do both and make my coach really excited. Oh, Sai said thank you so much. She said thank you for this. Yay! That makes me so happy, you guys, when you guys give me feedback. And that's what I was going to say. Please let me know if you like this video by literally clicking the like button. If you know somebody out there who could benefit from this, hit the share. I mean, it takes 2 seconds, doesn't cost you anything. And please comment, because you know, as a content creator, we are staring into cameras. We are staring into cameras. I'm staring at a wall in my office, and it's different than being in a room with people there who can smile and laugh and applaud and what have you. So give that, whether it's me or anyone else on YouTube, give that feedback, because that lets us know if we're on track or we need to go a little bit different place. So thank you for that. That's a shameless plug. If you haven't done so already, I also invite you to subscribe. And if you want to take it to the next level and really, really bless me, you can become a patron. There's a website called patreon.com, and the link will be below, but it's patreon.com/Yonci. And what that allows you to do is subscribe, and it's a platform that will charge you whatever tier you pick. The lowest one is $5 a month, but it allows me to invest. Today I just spent close to $1,000 on technology. I'm keeping it real, you guys. That's my thing. I keep it real. I'm investing a lot in my brand because I want to level up my equipment. I want to level up my sound, my, you know, the stuff that I can do. Eventually, I'd like to have a team who helps me with all the transitions so that we can be more smooth. So this is a real thing. This isn't me trying to get a Birkin bag. I quit my job in July. And so for everybody who has joined and subscribed, it means the world to me, because I take this very seriously. I know I work 80 hours a week putting content together, and this is something I believe I've been called to do and I'm passionate about. So if any of you guys watching want to sow into my ministry, as the church, the lingo would say, please consider doing that. I give a lot of content, bonus content behind the scenes, and that's ramping up because now I'm kind of getting my schedule together and I'm able to do that. But there's going to be a lot of vlogging that's happening. And to everybody who signed up, you guys, over the last, I think, 4 days, I have almost 60 people who signed up, and every single time it pops up a notification, I just get really emotional, because those are people who believe in me and they're saying this is what they want, and it's confirmation that I'm on the right track. Last thing I want to say, you guys, do like me, go out and pursue your dreams, figure out who you are, whatever your name is, insert that, chasing blank, chase yourself, figure out who you are, figure out what makes you tick. There's so much more to this life than the commercials promise, you know, as far as money and sex and fame. There's so much more to having peace within and just being so content. And so I hope that you benefit from the content. That's what my channel goes over. It's all about mental health, overcoming depression and anxiety, and living the abundant life, and then throwing in there some blog stuff and some fun stuff about love, dating, sex, and relationships. I do this every Sunday. Thank you guys for joining, 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Shout out to my daughter who keeps popping in the background, you guys. And shout out to the smoke detector, you know, who has been joining us. I won't call anybody out. I don't know who it is anyway, but shout out to the smoke detector that has been joining us for this broadcast. People have been commenting in the group. And thank you guys so much, especially for listening to my long-winded outro, but that's what it is. On that note, you guys, I'm going to say, tell somebody that you love them. And until next time, take care.